You're watching the Hyperloops. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel to show your support. Thank you and enjoy the video.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hyperloops 2020 podcast. It is me, Honest Sarcastic, and NJ Cuenca bringing it back again. No guests because we kind of forget to do this. How you doing, baby?
I'm all right. We've got some spoilers coming up, so that's why we don't have guests. We wanted to get this out quickly, but we're going to let you guys marinate a little bit, and we're not going to have them right away, but they will be the second thing we talk about.
Third or fourth.
Well, you know, it's coming. We're gonna talk about already spoiled cards from Faltering Legions.
Well,
because one of your boys is in there.
Maybe. But how have you been doing? How's life? Because you recently moved, so how's that stuff going for you? How's COVID treating you? People want to know.
Well, I'm taking a test every week for COVID at work. So, and I don't have it 2 weeks running. So, yay. I don't know. Life's been good. I've started organizing things and like selling more stuff online because I have all this free time because I'm only working like twice a week. I've been cooking a lot, and my wife's been enjoying that. So whenever I don't want to cook, she's like, let's order out. And I'm like, okay.
Dude, me too. I actually now have the life pro tip that I wanted. Thanks.
There we go.
Gotta add it to my list, baby. All right.
How are you doing, man?
Same old, man. Yeah, I just started school today. Finishing my master's in accounting. So, it's gonna be a beautiful day. I'm hoping to get that done like January, early February, depending on the scholarship I'm trying to get thing. It's a long story, but we're not gonna talk about that. I'm kind of delaying my graduation to try to get the scholarship for like a couple grand or something. But that's going good. Got a headache a bit right now, but going through it for you guys, the viewers, and we'll see how it goes. And but life's smooth. Not working, so no COVID tests. Really not really going outside. I also do the cooking. It's turned into a I cook, she cleans, so that's been fantastic. And that's going to lobby into the life tip soon enough. But too bad we didn't, arrange that to be the spoilers like the 6th or 7th item. Because they would hate us. Imagine we're like spoilers and we waited to the last like 3 minutes.
Spoilers are actually going to be the 30th item. So you guys might want to click to the second hour of the podcast.
The 32nd hour. But all right. So we'll go straight in the card so you guys don't hate us and eat us alive. Any last parting thoughts before we go in?
No, let's get to it.
Nothing to it but to do it. Bang! All right. Boom. FN 2199. This is a flashback. This was actually given to I Rebel. And I was kind of sad that they didn't give me an FN 2199. I don't know if you remember, Cuenca, but we were the ones who got it originally during the spoiler thing. There was like the whole Polish thing going, and then they had to shut it down, and they gave us, 9s and some other card, I forget.
Right.
Shit, what was that other card? I know it wasn't Vibro Knife. It was a blue card. It might have been Seven Sister. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember that now. So long ago.
Oh, no, it was Luminara because Bobo's a mess, and he wanted that terrible character. I think that's what it was.
Oh, my God. And then it got didn't it get lowered and it's still unplayable?
No, there was a combo deck that Running Onion ran and murdered people with it. I don't know. It was ugly, I guess. And then at some point, there was Running Onion doing Mean Streets hyperspace jump stuff. So it was like, okay. Running Onion, single-handedly made, ban lists and unlimited.
Cool.
Yeah. But anyways, FN 2199, 9 health, 1013 for the points. You guys ready for this? The first die side is 0 ranged. Yeah. I'm not shitting you. 0 ranged. Then it's 1 melee, 2 melee, 3 for 1 melee, resource, blank. After setup, you may look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal a weapon from among them, and add it to your hand. Power action. Roll a die on a weapon on this character into your pool and resolve it if able. Otherwise, remove it. He is a character trooper. All right, buddy, go ahead, because I got too many things to say about this bastard.
All right. Well, I'm sure I'm not going to be able to say as much, but remember we were saying what's the worst side in Destiny that isn't blank?
Yeah.
It's actually zero, zero gun. But we were actually talking about this how zero gun with his power action, I think you can still resolve a modifier. So if you roll like a +2 with the zero gun, you will be able to resolve it.
Yeah, you can.
Uh,
This was already done with that old Nexus one. Remember that blue one cost like support that you flipped it to whatever die side you wanted? And they were all
of
zeros.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
So.
was in my constructed Death Star deck. That was terrible.
Oh, the resource thing. I remember now.
Yeah, because you could just flip it to the resource every time.
You're like, oh, this is half a card. Let's go.
I don't really want to say more about it. I think the die is better. I think that the die is better. It has a solid than the original FN, but man, 9 health is rough. It's like the Dooku health and the Dooku cost, except that he's a 10-13. So I kind of like him as a 1 die actually, because that that ability, the after setup ability, is actually pretty sweet. Depending on, it goes really well with him. And for 10, and you get that extra power action die every turn. That's actually like a second die, so it's like a 10 health, a 10 cost character with like 2 dice after you play weapon on him. So that's all I have to say. He seems like he has a shot to be good.
So I don't know. It's hard for me. The dilemma is that like when I do the comparison, even looking at like old Epen, which I should have put up here on a thing. I don't know why I didn't. The main dilemma is that the die is largely irrelevant. So like 2 melee and 3 for 1 in theory seem really good. The problem is that you do have to get a weapon going on him. So if you're gonna play a 2-drop weapon, you're not gonna be able to pay for the 3 for 1. You'd have to get a resource somewhere. If you play a 3-drop weapon, you needed to get a resource somewhere first, or whatever before activating, then put it on him, and then get to do the power action. But your 3 for 1 is still dead. So like that's a very large issue early game. You include the 0 range, and that's like, wow, that's like kind of garbage. Like if that was 1 ranged and that 3 for 1 was just a base 2, I'd be like, oh, this is great, right? Like 1/1 2/2 resource and like a weapon thing. I'd be like, this is fine. It's reasonable. I feel like they scaled it back too much. I really hate that power action, primarily because I don't expect them to give us good weapon sides that's more than like 50%. I don't see us getting a 2-drop that has 50% for like raw value, like an Ezra Saber or something, where it's like 1/2/2 resource, shield. I don't even remember the other side. No, that was everything. Yeah. So it's like, all right, 50% is really good value. So if you're getting that, twice per round, you're in a good space. I expect a bunch of these upgrades to be trash, and if you like go through the list of options, they're not amazing. Like, do you remember that Grievous weapon that's like 1 range, 2 indirect, 2 indirect? That's like one of the best upgrades for him to play right now. Okay, like, so like when that's one of the best upgrades, you have to like question life a fair bit, and like so like maybe they give him something that pumps him or does something else, and then it's like, oh, okay. But roll and remove is real sketchy, and I'm not a fan. I think he has too little health, and we're going to see, at the very least, an aggressive meta to start. I don't see that being amazing, and that's a rather large concern. Plus the 9 health is poo-poo.
Isn't there like a weapon that like costs 2 and then you can search for another copy of it if you pay the same cost?
Yeah, the Abrir thing, but why would you do that? You don't search for it, you make a copy. It's like the Abrir Vibroblade. Abrir Vibroblade. Okay. But like, why would you ever want that?
Oh, I don't know. I thought that the sides were like okay.
I think it was like,
doesn't have redeploy.
I think it was like 1/2 +2 shield or something.
Oh, is it? I thought it was 2 2s. But
I don't think so.
Okay.
But yeah, so I've just been really unhappy with that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what comes up with him. It's hard to say for me. I think because if there are 2 weapons, I think that it's pretty good because then you get to look at top 4. So you have pretty good chances to see at least one of them because you have like 4 copies of them. Like if you have like 6 copies, I think that's like really good, right? You'll be able to like.
You're talking about like, if you run 6 weapons in the deck, because you can only power action for 1 weapon. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh no, I'm talking about like
Finding one?
basically if you have like you were talking about how you wanted something that was good value, like two twos and a resource, or
Yeah.
like really good.
Yeah.
So if you because of his after setup ability, trigger, whatever you want to call
Oh,
it,
better odds to find something
if you
that's
have
useful.
if you have like two, like if you have three cards, right, and you get two copies, that's six copies, and then you look at the top four and you get the mulligan. So there's a pretty good chance you'll get one of them in your opening hand.
Yeah.
That was my point.
Got you. Got you. Yeah. So they're
Yeah.
reasonable odds for that, but it's just not pretty in general. I don't like it. All right.
Fair enough.
I'll move on from my hate of it. And I will write at length about whatever my article is at some point with hate. And like realistically, the 2-3 resource is fine. It's just they're counterproductive for the early stage, and then like into 9 health is like brutal. But as you mentioned, 10 health does make it pseudo reasonable, but it's gonna be all based on how good the weapon is, and
Mm-hmm.
it's still real rough. If you ever miss it, it's like beyond ugly. And if someone's aggressive, like you could just lose your guy. So moving on.
Yep.
TIE Striker. It's a 3-cost support vehicle, red. I actually forgot to mention that FN's red. 2 ranged, plus 3 ranged, 2 indirect, 3 indirect for 1, 2 disrupt, blank. Action. If an opponent activated a vehicle during their last turn this round, you may discard another card from your hand to play this vehicle from your hand for free. After the upkeep phase begins, discard the support from play unless you discard the top 4 cards of your deck. I forgot to also mention he is villain as well as the support.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'll take it since we're
Always. You'll always take it first.
going with me first.
Forever.
Well, I think this card is pretty easy to evaluate. Is that it's insane when you're playing against a certain opponent, and bad, mediocre. I'd say mediocre. Like it, yeah, mediocre, bad. I'd say bad. I would never run this card without the action, right? If you like if you cover the card, it has no action. The card's unplayable, unless there's like a card that says like any card with the name tie in it, some type of thing like that. But yeah, the action is insane when you get a free vehicle like that, die for free. I'll take it for sure. But it's going to be very meta dependent. It's like if there aren't a lot of vehicles, this card's unplayable. If there are a lot of vehicles, this card's going to be like pretty good, and it's going to cause a lot of weird sort of meta choices because you have this card. But because it's only going to be a 2 copy of, you can't really. I don't know. I wouldn't want to play like a bad deck or a bad card in my deck if it was only good when it met that condition, right?
Yeah.
Because this card's just terrible. Like if you don't play against a vehicle deck, so I don't love it, but it will create some really funny situations where like, God, you're playing that card. That's so
Yeah. Well, there is
so
an issue
good.
that you're losing 5 cards to it, 1 from hand and 4 from deck. And like
Sure.
support decks struggle with milling out. If you do play 2 of them, in the 4th round you have 2 cards left if you played every card from your hand. So like that's real brutal. If we just
Right.
assume 1, like you do lose that potential 6th round if things are going long. So like the 4 cards really don't matter, but I don't know. Like you said, the cost is relatively high. And I think they're kind of just trying to play things very, very safe. I don't like the card one bit, but if there's a lot of vehicles running around, then I could definitely see it just being, like you said, meta dependent and played.
Yeah, I think. Sorry. I think you're not going to see this in a support deck, like in a big ramp deck actually, because you never want to play it. It's just going to be like a cheese card that someone puts in their Forloam deck or something, like just be like, oh, like gotcha.
No, if there's a vehicle villain deck, I could see it just like being splashed in. If you're playing a bunch of mirrors and stuff, you're just
Yeah,
like, all right, well, this will get ahead.
Yeah, I suppose that's true too. I just don't like. It's just like it's like one of those things where like, if like my hand is a certain way, like I guess you see your opponent's characters, right, and then you make your mulliganing decisions. and then you have like TIE Striker in your hand. And I think it's also going to create some very interesting mind games if people are playing it, where you're just like, all right, I'm going to wait a lot until I play this card, or like make you discard, or just like weird things like that. We'll see exactly what happens. What kind of cards are printed and like the sort of situations, but I could definitely see some like interesting sort of like waiting games. Try to get a read on whether or not your opponent has TIE Striker, and probably won't be able to play around it, but maybe you can, and that'll be good.
Yeah, it's one of those tough ones because like you can't start root this in the deck unless you just want to gamble that the meta has vehicles in it. You'll need the range sides to pair with the mods. Sure, there could be some ranged aggro deck that just randomly has it in there, and they'll just toss it if they can't use it, but it just seems super unlikely.
Yeah, that was my thought. Was just like, oh, it's like that was the kind of deck where I'm just like, all right, like sometimes those decks just randomly have like resources in the mid game. Yeah. And then you're just like, all right, I'll play this like derpy card, or like your opponent's playing range and you just keep it in your hand, and then like your draw is just like the nut.
Yep. Oh my god, I'm so tired. I'm sorry, guys. So moving on to the last one.
Let's move on.
I Rebel stuff. Exposing Disloyalty. 0 cost. Red event. Villain. It has Director Krennic on it, right? And then Exposing Disloyalty. Look at 2 random cards in the opponent's hand. Then, if those cards do not share a color, discard one of them. Go ahead, Cuenca. Love it or hate it.
Do I really have to pick one of those options?
Yes, you get one. And one only.
All right, I love it. We're playing a dice game. Let's go. This card's insane, right? If you run hot, like it's super good. But if you run bad, you just get so punished. So, I mean, whatever. Like, it's free. It's a free card, so it has such a high ceiling, and it's free. Like, let's go. I like it. I love it.
So I'm gonna go with hate on this one, just to play the
I like it.
The other way.
I like it.
All right, so here's the dilemma. I know the math. In a 3-card hand, let's say one card is a different color than the other 2. You have to hit that with pretty much either shot. Like, it has to hit that for one of the shots. So, you end up with like a 33 and then a 50. So you're 66% to hit it to then, put yourself in that spot because you're only 33 to hit both of the same color. So then it's like, okay, but you still only discard 1. So you don't get, 2 cards. You don't get massive amount of choice with it. It's not like Counter Intel where you get to peek, but Counter Intel still exists. So like you could Counter Intel and then set them up and then hit the exposing. And against Rainbow, you're like, because you're pretty much gonna like be live always. But I think with the smaller format, we're not gonna have nearly as many Rainbow decks because they're better once you have access to 5-6 sets. Actually, I lied. I'm sorry. Rainbow sets are really good at the beginning because removal's so terrible at the beginning that you just go Rainbow. But I just mean like support-wise and whatever stuff. Like I don't know if I can believe that this card is gonna like dodge the double color bullet. Hitting the negative on it's really brutal. But it does go into like the opening 5-card hand a little better, I guess I'd say. You don't feel nearly as bad as you do when you just probe a 5-card hand and pray.
Right.
But I'd probably stick to Counter Intel or Face the Enemy. Most of the other cards are kind of coming out of the format. So, like, sure, if you're red and yellow, you just Face or DM. But Face blows this out of the water, and this just kind of doesn't have a comparison for it.
Right.
That's
Sentinel
my thought.
Is Sentinel Messenger sticking around, or is he rotating?
He's from Convergence. He's sticking around.
Okay, well, there you go. Sentinel Messenger, boom, get him.
Right off the top, baby.
Right off the top, baby.
But wasn't Probe still legal?
Is Probe still legal?
Yeah, it's from Convergence. So, like, it's disgusting how we have Counterintelligence, Probe, Face the Enemy, and Exposing Disloyalty. Like, what's wrong with you guys? Like, I know you want this of rotation. Put it in the next, in, like, the end of it. You're just going to give some crazy aggro deck, like, 8 pieces of removal. You're like, I'm a peek in your hand. I'm a peek again. Mill's going to be like, I don't care about, like, playing whatever. They're just like a peek. Okay, no answer. All right, let's go.
Pika Pika.
Pika.
I just like that. I like that this card, like Face the Enemy, can take, like it can take anything, or it can take nothing, right? Like imagine just like your opponent takes a bunch of resources, and you're just like, all right, you know what? Let's run it. Let's run it out there, and then you like,
oh god,
you know, like if you play it against like a support deck, most of the support decks are rainbow. So I think that this card excels in a meta where there's like a rainbow support deck, you know, like that's and
it does.
yeah. I mean, I think it's a playable card. It's a highly playable card. It will definitely be on the radar of anyone who's playing Villain Red.
Yeah, but do you run it over any of the other 3?
Well, Face is on the restricted list.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do about that with rotation. If there's going to be a community sort of thing that they'll do. Maybe they'll just start it off with what it is now, and then adjust.
Yeah,
probably.
That's likely. No one wants to play Face the Enemy and DM.
Right.
And you can't have Trandoshan's have those. So like, yeah.
Right, and I think that just so DM I'd say DM is probably DM and Face are like close to being powerful, but I think like DM is generally like, well, I don't know. I think they're meta dependent. Which one's better? I'll cop out and say that.
Yeah, like so Face in theory is always good, provided you can like push damage.
Right.
DM is arguably a better card, but it has a lower floor because if your opponent doesn't play supports, it's dead. Yep. So it's, you know, whatever. It's fine. But they're both ridiculous, and this is nowhere near by, you know, in the power comparison. So like it's a, you know, New Age Trilogy, it's like okay, after we get a 4th set and the old stuff rotates, it's like all right, you know, what do we got? And you'll probably have to see play. Like I'd be sketched at the beginning, and it goes back meta stuff. You can get to a rainbow meta and decide like you want to run this over the other ones because you want to hit supports and not just events. But usually speaking, the decks that are running this stuff are trying to actually kill the event. They want to hit the DM so that they can play their support. They want to mess with the removal so that they can push the damage. And so I'm gonna go with hate. This gets the big stamp, the honest sarcastic stamp of hate. Dead to me.
It's a free card that can be game breaking, so I'm gonna give it the. If you look at zero cost cards, they're terrible. That's the thing. Like you're comparing them to other like good cards, but then you look at like other cards, they're just like zero cost, like heal, spot red, heal 1. I mean that's not a real card, but you know like that's the kind of card you're like remove. You know,
zero cost heal 1 is about right for stuff. We have on guard. It's blue. It shields 1, right? Like ambush.
Right.
But like
So,
I don't know.
So I just think of upside. You know, I'm like thinking of the upside of the scenario where like, you know, in round 1 you get your opponent, and it's like I think this is like the kind of card that's like for a specific deck that doesn't like it's not for a support deck. I think it's for like an aggressive deck that just wants to jam an upgrade, you know, swing in, have all these cards for rerolls, and then just, you know, read the situation to see whether or not you want to exposing disloyalty.
Yeah.
And but I wouldn't play it over Face the Enemy. I might play it over Counter Intel. I mean, if you don't have a leader,
yeah,
there you go.
That's fair.
And Probe is like, obviously I love Probe, but it's also like one of those, like I think Probe is actually, I get battered by Probe later in the game than I do in like the first round, because like generally you want to like develop and stuff. But that's just maybe me. But this card, like in the first round, like you just play it sometimes, and then they're just like, well, you know, you don't. I don't think you want to go like blind into like a hand, but
that's fair. It is the one card of the 4 where you could just cast it as the first thing and completely blow someone out. Right? It's like when you take the YOLO discard and you ruin someone's entire round.
Let's go.
I'll give you that much, but I still hate it. What you gonna do? Run your shit.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
All right.
No, I get it.
It's fine. Well, there's got to be a love-hate thing. All right. The moment you guys have been waiting for. Bump.
The official spoilers given to us by the continuation community. We got 3 bad boys. We actually have a bad girl. Actually 2 bad girls. I'll let you read out
2.
our sister from a different mister.
Sister from a different mister. Bam. Second sister, expert duelist, blue villain, 11 health, 1 melee, 1 focus, 1 shield, 1 resource. This sounds not so good so far. Special. Blank. Character, Inquisitor. After you activate this character, turn an opponent's die to a symbol showing on one of this character's character dice. Special. Turn another one of your character dice to any side and resolve it, increasing its value by 1 or by 2 instead if it is showing the same same symbol as an opponent's die. 10-13. 11 health. FN wishes he had 11 health.
An Inquisitor.
Yeah, I got that one. Go ahead,
Did you get
Quinker.
Inquisitor? Okay.
What you got, baby?
Well, I think that it's an interesting idea what they were going for. And you'll see one of the other cards that we're going to be spoiling is sort of kind of goes with her. But first off, the die is just poop, right? And when you have a die that's kind of poop, like, sure, like her special is turn another one of your character dice to any side and resolve it, increasing its value by 1 or 2 if it is showing the same symbol as an opponent's die. You can never ever guarantee that that's going to happen, right? So it's sort of like a focus, like a good focus, right? Like it's a really good focus side, like a 1 focus. I don't know if this special. I guess this special is probably. I don't know. It depends on the deck, but I'd say it's about the same as a 2 focus side. I'd say, maybe when it's okay. So when you get the 2, I think it's better than a 2 focus side. When you get the 1, it's not. Let's cut the difference. But man, really? You guys really couldn't have made her ability a May? Like, you really needed to like make it a must? Because that's really the card. That's the thing that really kills this card is that it's a must. You have to do it. You have to flip, and this could just be disastrous. Like, it could just like go horribly wrong for you. And that's the thing I don't like about the card is that it just has this like insane variance, where it can just backfire, which kind of makes the card unplayable for me.
What's the 13 health? The 13-point lady that came out? We thought she was gonna be great until Snoke came out.
Oh, Arinda.
Oh yeah, Price. There we go.
Arinda Price.
I could not remember her name. I was like,
Oh no, yeah. This is that's also another thing I kind of have a beef with is that it's kind of lazy design. You kind of just took Arinda and made her a little different. Like, come on, guys, you guys can do better. Like, I love what the continuation continuity is doing, but I would have loved to see this card like having 2 blanks and then like a 2. And then I think it would have been cool, right? Because you're likely to roll a blank, but her like die is like kind of worse, but better. It works better with her ability. Maybe they tested something like that, and it was like 2 OP, which I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, there's a major concern where if your opponent can slow the game down, you could get blown out, right? Like, you can't do the 1 die thing with her because if you hit like the resource side, and your opponent has like a die, like only 1 die out, and that is a 2 resource side and no base 1, you're like, oh god, no. Like, imagine someone has an entourage out and you roll her and hit the resource on like 1 or both dice. Like, that's a blow up.
Or you hit like resource special and you're just like,
Yeah, it's like, do you have 3 scoundrels? No, special, go. Because like, there's no way I'm giving you 2 resources.
And this is another thing I was thinking about is that this is the kind of card that's like a big little card, right? You can't. There's only so many actions you can dick around with the big little deck. Talking like Dooku, Kylo, like, there's a point where you have to roll in your character. It's not like a support. Like, if you had like a support deck, or if she was like a little cheaper and she made like if she had an extra money side or something, then you could be like, okay, I'm running this as sort of like an FU card. Mm-hmm. Like traditionally we've seen support decks like very rarely do the 13 elites get in there, and at 1 die, like, just to have an extra like 11 health and like a card that kind of messes with you with a die that's like pretty mediocre. I don't know. I don't think that's
so. There is one thing, which I'm not sure of, but I'm going to conjecture that it may actually be right. which is that you can choose the die to turn and then fail to find the side. So if she hits one melee and there's a die that doesn't have a melee, I think you can actually pick that die and then fail to turn it to a melee.
Well, I mean, if that's true, then you're blowing my mind, and the card is better. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
And I'm sure Gandork will be like, "No, that's not how it works," or he'll be like, "Oh man, I didn't think of that," or one of those two things. It's either it doesn't work, it does, or I didn't think about that and it works like that. But I don't know. It just seems weird, because if that's the case, why wouldn't you word it as a May then, right?
That
Maybe they didn't think about that. That's the thing.
The reason they wouldn't make it be a May is because if they have one die and you hit resource on both or something, you have to turn the die to a resource. Unless you miss the sides that are available on it, you still have to turn it. Whereas
right.
If they have a stack of dice, which is like kind of what happens with like support based decks, then you can't like miss. Or sorry, you have a better chance of missing. But if they only have that one die and you come up with it, then you have to turn it, right? Like if you hit melee plus resource and the opponent only has Sheen Mastery, or like resource plus special and they only have Sheen Mastery, you're like, oh.
God, imagine this card like with someone who doesn't know all the cards. It'd be like starts like flipping your dice and be like, oh, that doesn't have that side, and you're like, oh, what was it on? I don't know. Ah, god damn it.
I'll try to look up the turn a die thing to get better confirmation, but I want to say I'm 25% sure that might be the way you could do it.
I don't know, man. I don't know if you can fail to find on a die side. Like, can you? Like, is there a precedent to that?
If it doesn't exist, yes. The problem is like choosing the die. So like it's do as much as you can. So if you pick a die and it just doesn't have the matching die side, then I think you'd skip it. But let's say you hit like one melee and resource and you picked a die that has resource, then you might be forced to pick it. But I think at the same time you could probably pick your one die that doesn't match, and then that die, and then like force a failure.
Mm.
So it's a much better card when you can force the failure. But
that's true.
I think it's highly dependent on the special. It kind of reminds me of like a shitty Yoda. So the special is much better than every other side, but it doesn't have two specials. If it had two specials, we're talking focus and resolve for +1, which would be like a special that tries to do like Yoda Snoken together, right? Opponent has a resource. You flip a die to like a resource, and then you go +2 and it's 3 resources. This thing could be an entire engine for the resource decks, or it could just be complete trash.
Yep.
Like it's sad how like deep that goes. It based on the die sides, like you really can't even play it as damage unless you're going, okay, this special is worth about 2 damage. And then it's similar to a regular card with like 1, 2 focus, shield, resource, but that's not very good either. You do get the little bit of hate with that. You get some access to special. So if there's something that comes in like an R2D2 where it's like a 1-cost support, it has the special on it to like flip a die, then you could flip her to a special, resolve it, hit something else for +2, and then like smash it in, and then you have some stuff going. So like there's potential for this to be useful enough. The 13 points is low enough to pair, like you said, with mid-mids. It's going to boil down to whether that ability has to turn something to match, even if you can just like pick die sides that don't. If you can pick the die sides that don't, then you have a much better spot where you can just decide to fail if it's I guess if you roll the good sides. Because like for the most part, you probably always turn people to shield. You take that all day. The one melee is really sketch, but if you can turn a 2 or a 3 into a 1, FN, you would take that. You'd be like, all right, just lower creep down to 1. But like those die sides are nothing to write home about. They're pretty awful.
Yeah, and blank is obviously like the best, right? Like you roll blank, you can do the blank, and
yeah, but that's like Canon Jarrus levels of stuff where you're now like, what's going on there. So like, yeah, the blank doesn't feel bad on the initial rollout, but the other sides don't feel like great value. And I guess I would have liked to see a 2 melee there instead of the other sides. Like if it was a 2 melee, I think I could get down with it. Or if that shield just was something else, then I'd feel much better about it. But
or like a 2 shield. Ooh.
Yeah, I guess 2 shield would be better. But like, it's tough because I think this was one of those ones where like it could be so busted, you can't risk the die sides being better. But you do have to kind of
I get that. I get the I get that 100%. I guess if you make this a May, I do think it's busted. That's the thing.
Yeah. I'm trying to
Do
remember
you think it's
what card flipped a die and you could like fail on the stupid thing, but I can't remember. Oh well. All right.
could you do it with Emperor's Throne Room? Probably not.
I think you could pick a die, but it was irrelevant. It was just claiming and skipping the ability.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah. So.
We'll see. We'll find out. We'll get confirmation from our listeners, or mostly just Gandor, to see if.
I'll just tag his ass.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have an answer before the end, and then we'll write it in.
Yeah, maybe we'll have an answer. And I can move on to if you want to pop up Sith Warblade, I can introduce that card while you do that.
Yep, I'll switch it over. Go ahead, Sith Warblade, you got it, baby.
All right, Sith Warblade costs 3 resources. It is a upgrade weapon. Redeploy before you resolve this die. Deal 1 damage to attached character. That sounds pretty bad, right? But here are the die sides. 2 melee, 3 melee, plus 4 modified side for 1, a shield, a resource, and a blank. It's blue. I think I've covered everything. Oh, it's villain blue. So we got the villain blue package for our spoilers, just to give you guys a concept of what happened there. So we have it on the screen, and I'll talk about why I don't like it. Essentially, it boils down to I just don't think that the sides are good enough. But I do recognize that this kind of card could just be stupid good, so it's hard to balance it. Basically, you have to think about like what cards are like it and how good they were. And their sides. So the +4 for 1 is like, it sort of reminds me of Maul's lightsaber, but you have to pay 1. That didn't have redeploy though, so that's the thing. That's why you're balancing it. Now, obviously, if it was +4 with not 1, then that's probably too good because it has redeploy and you're just doing a ton of damage. And a 3 cost to have a 4 side that's like without costing 1 is like, that's definitely like very good. We don't see that many solid 3s on 3s, but we do see them. So 2 3 solids, melee sides, they're about on par. The thing that really is like a little bit above par with the card in general, like that makes it a little more powerful, is the 4 side. And the fact that it has redeploy. I don't really know if we have a card that has a +4, but it costs 1, so that's where we get into problems. Pay sides suck. You just slamming this down in round 1 or round 2. You're taking a damage every turn. That's sort of in an aggro matchup. You're really exchanging, you're exchanging blows, right?
Yeah.
So you're. If you resolve a 3, that's fine. If you resolve a 2, that's not that good. That's not that good at all. And if you get the +4 early on, like we were talking about, it's good. This thing costs 3. Like, are you gonna have $1 to pay? Probably not. And oh my god, if you get a shield, like that's laughable because it's like literally like a blank on a normal card because you're gonna take 1. And then resources, like it's on par with a 3 cost redeploy, but you take 1, so that's not good. And blank's obviously very bad. So I'm gonna go with it's one of these cards. It's kind of that's having a late game redeploy card. Maybe that's where it will shine because you don't want this early at all, right? Like you want this later in the game. You've played some upgrades, and your character's about to die. You put this on, and then it moves over. And then it's kind of scary, right? Because like the +4 for 1 in that stage of the game, you hopefully have money to pay for that, and that's the side that really will prove whether or not this card is good. But that's the thing, is that when you're constructing decks, you put cards in your deck, right? It's not even, and it's also not unique. But I don't think I'd ever. I mean, maybe you'd want 2 of these, and then like you just like go to town. And you're like, all right, suicide baby. It's funny because second sister has only 1 melee side, so you can't even pair the +4 that well with her. So I don't know. I don't know about that either. So yeah, I'm gonna go with I don't like it. You can maybe see if you have like some weird, because you can have some weird like 2 character deck that has a lot of health, and then maybe it could be good. But that's the problem, is that like 2 character decks generally struggle to outlast decks with more health because they have less health, and this is just making it worse. And like I don't know, maybe this is the kind of card that makes like a 3-wide melee deck like better, because like you have all that extra health and you can leverage that into damage. But villain hasn't generally had that kind of lineup. But maybe if they did have something like that, maybe then it would be good.
Okay. So
but
breaking news.
I'm going to go with I don't like it.
Breaking news.
Sorry, I was trying to give you time to.
All right, I already had the answer. It's fine. Breaking news. So I sent this message. Can I pick a die that doesn't match the side she rolls and fail? If I have one of her die that fails and one that would hit, can I then pick a die that fails one of her sides and choose to fail? Right, you would pick an opponent's die and then try to turn it. But if there are no valid sides with a matching symbol, nothing happens. You don't have to choose a die that you can turn. I followed up with, let's say she hit 1 melee and 1 resource, and you pick a die that has resource but not melee, if you could still fail. So there is a potential for that, but my current reading is that you could just decide to pick your melee. Hold on. Yeah, so I'm going to go you could fail on both. 90%, otherwise he would have, I think, adjusted that sentence unless he missed that part. So yes, we're going to go with 90%. If we're wrong, then I'll go back and adjust, because like I said, this is questionable. I just asked. But we got the answer. The second sister can fail, which changes everything immensely because she was cock-a-dookey before that.
Right, yeah.
But
okay, well, that makes her much better.
Yeah, it makes the ability at least much better, because you don't just get like bamboozled or ruined for it. But I'm still not happy about them die sides. Now, Sith Warblade, complete trash. Absolute trash. Go F yourself. If I need a redeploy, then maybe. But that shit is awful. So here's the dilemma. You're taking 1 before you resolve it. It's not an indirect, so it has to be on the attached character. If your character has 1 health left, you physically can't resolve it without dying before you resolve it. So that's out the window. You can resolve it, then have your guy kill itself to remove the redeploy when you have 1 left, which sounds great, but it's probably not. The second
it sounds
dilemma,
like something you could do.
Yeah. The second dilemma is, let's correct these die sides. So we're going to remove this deal 1 damage to yourself, and we're going to correct the actual die sides of that die. It is now 1 melee, 2 melee, 3 melee for 1, blank, half a resource, blank. That is the equivalent. When you hear those die sides, you seem so happy to have those. And by happy, I mean you're like, what is going on? So yeah, no. The only time I think I'm content with that is if I'm playing against Mill. Like, if your guy's being attacked, then it's awful because you're going to die faster. If your guy's the other one not being attacked, you're not going to get this redeploy off because they're ignoring your guy as you poke your own guy to hell. So, like, what am I getting from this? Nothing. Therefore, poop. And I'd assume there's some other redeploy I can run where I'd be much more content. I'm not sure of it, but this thing is terrible. I'd rather just run Electro Sword. The end.
All right, well said. Yeah, I didn't think about the whole like Mill point. If Mill is a very popular deck, I could see playing this card as 50% damage is pretty good, and then you could also technically get the resource, which is like against Mill, that's not what you want to do, but it is a side you can resolve.
Yeah, my issue is just that shield needed to be bigger. The sides are just too awful by comparison for this 1 damage drawback. Like, look, I made shit tons of yelling at FFG for shitty cards, and like, I'm not trying to beat up on people that worked for free. I understand the value. Y'all motherfuckers need to understand how a card works, though. This is dookie. Like you need Dookie in sets, but the problem is like I think we're getting like a 90 card set. The more Dookie,
What if the 2 was a 3 solid?
so 3/3 4+1.
Yeah. Then it gets. I think then it gets into like, ooh, that's interesting.
It gets
that's
a little
more...
fancier. The problem is still you have to get those die sides, and that's going to be the first thing that gets mitigated. So you paid 3, the die is going to get mitigated. What other die side are you going to have that's better than this? I think you froze on my screen for the video.
Right, and I agree. I agree with that. That's one of the big problems with even playing a big 3-cost redeploys. Like they sound nice in theory, but it's a big investment, and when they get mitigated, even if they redeploy, it still feels bad.
Yeah, and 3 of those. Well, technically 3 of those sides don't feel good. The resource, because it would take three rounds to pay for itself, is brutal. The 2 melee, because you're dealing one to yourself, it's worse. It actually takes 6 resolutions to pay for the cost of the card. The 3 is the one where it's 3 sides again. So like, the resource isn't even 3 because you take a damage. Like it's arguably bad from a value perspective. And like, I'll take some of the blame. I meant to write a value thing for like whatever designers were going to do stuff. 1, to not offend them, but 2, just so that they have stuff in a ballpark. If they can at least be ballparkish, then they'll have an understanding of whether something is just trash or like potentially way too strong. If the value sides are just above and beyond, then you have to be super careful, right? But it at least puts somewhere in a ballpark. This thing is terrible. Like, if this didn't have redeploy,
there's a lot of
took off the 1 damage, I'd probably be happier with it, which is sad.
It reminds me of Heirloom Lightsaber, but worse, I'd say. But I mean, it's a weird thing. Like, I think the late game thing with having like big tough guys is something where you're like, oh, maybe this is something. But yeah, just there's the shield side. That's so laughable. Like the shield side's so laughable.
You take one and then get a shield.
Yeah, that's a thing. It's like a joke.
It's
It's like a funnier joke that I tell. Like I can't even tell that joke because no one will be like, that doesn't make any sense.
I know. It'd be like when I'm regularly listening.
Right. So that's why I'm saying Heirloom is better because it has a shield side, but you don't take damage.
And the resource, the same thing. That's the dilemma. Like the sides needed to be spiked a bit, and I think they did it on the first part. And then like they just picked whatever on the other end. Like that had to be a 2 shield side to even out. You take 1 and then get 2 shields. You still go +1. This needed 1.5 resources on that die.
Yeah, even if you turn this, still bad. Like,
dude, it's the only time you're feeling great is when you one-shot somebody.
Imagine that blank is still a shield. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's bad. Like you could kill your guy and then shift it, or you could like grab a shield for someone else, I guess. But that's not great. That's like it's far negative for something you paid 3 for. The 4-for-1 seems amazing when you get to smash a guy and take him off the table. It's just getting to that state is once again something hard to do. This is an upgrade, not a support. You can't slow roll this, find resources, play it, find another resource, and jam in hard. Like you just talked about 2 resources round 1. Round 2, like what? You usually just want to have a second upgrade that's like 1, 2, 2. It's more profitable than this. But whatevs. Sith Warblade, Kakaduki, I want no part of it. Maybe if there's something that limits that negative. I don't know. Some guy that just removes the freaking ability. Like, keeps keywords, removes the ability.
Right.
Then maybe we're talking, right? FN.
Yeah, something like before you resolve this die, deal 1 damage to attached character. He still takes the damage, right?
FN, yeah. Oh, FN would take a damage. That's why I'm saying it's even worse. You can't even do the 4-for-1. You get 2, 3.
Like if they. Okay, how about this? Imagine Awakening's Dooku. Like before you take a damage, so instead of like taking the damage, you discard a card. How do you feel about that then?
Still terrible. Why do I even want to take one?
But no, you wouldn't take one because it's Awakening's Dooku, right?
No. But I'm saying you could take that 1 off of the card, and I'd still be like, this is okay. The 4-for-1 is like good. So you'd be at like this is usable at 4-for-1.
Right.
I think this is unusable with 1. If this said before you resolve this die showing damage, I'd probably be a little more. I'd feel a bit better about it because you don't get as owned on the shield and the resource, which are arguably bad once you do it. You'd be like, okay, I'm pushing the damage prerogative to then hurt myself at the same time.
Yeah, if that was like a 4-for-1 without the plus, then you could like run it in like a 3 wide like support deck and then just have it be like value because you have all that extra health. But
Uh,
since you have to pair it,
no, the issue is the upgrades we have from Convergence block have abilities when they come in. Like, sure, this
yeah,
is redeploy. How do you compare this to Sheehan Mastery?
yeah, yeah. That's what I was saying. I was thinking like this feels almost like I was thinking like Vader's Fist because you could kill your guy and use it again, so you have that extra die. But yeah, you look at Sheehan Mastery and this card's just like, do you want to play this for 3, or like just wait around, get another resource, and then play Sheehan Mastery and brah.
Forget Sheehan Mastery. So like you can play Sheehan Training, and it's
that,
probably just better than this.
That I think in design they overvalued redeploy. That's my read on the situation.
I'll agree, but just for the point of this, Sheehan Training is an upgrade ability. It requires blue character. It obviously doesn't have redeploy, but it's 2 melee, and each of the specials deals 2 damage. It has 2 of them, and then it has 2 shields and a resource. It makes this look like trash. And this thing has redeploy, which is one of the most highly coveted keywords, and it's not worth this. It is not. Like, redeploy is necessary in a weapon just to kind of make it at odds with supports. That's how bad it is. But maybe our supports are trash now too.
Right. I think that might be the thing, is that maybe the supports are bad and you have to have a card like this to go along. But yeah, like the problem is that it's redeploy, but like the whole redeploy is like going to the late game, but then like late game, like how much damage have you taken from this card? That's the thing.
How close are you to killing your guy? Did it get mitigated when you finally hit the 3 or 4? Because like that's the thing, you have to reroll off these 50%, and the 2-for-1, the 2 melee and taking 1 doesn't feel amazing. I'd probably let people just do that. It's like doing a 1.
I will say if there is a Count Dooku, like Awakenings Count Dooku, I think this card's good in that deck.
I think it's like usable, but not good.
Well, I think you're thinking of also like current meta. There's going to be a bunch of cards that are rotate, and the format's going to be a little more.
No, it's also trash. There's a bunch of bad cards, but the problem is people aren't going to sit there playing stacks of bad cards. There's still good cards left.
Yeah. No, I know.
But
I guess Awakenings Dooku, but I'm not saying exactly Awakenings Dooku, but I'm saying like Awakenings Dooku that costs like 13 or something. I don't know, 14.
We'd have to wait till there's a card, but it doesn't change the fact that this card sucks, and the other card would have to try to carry it.
Right. And no, I mean, I agree. I agree with that.
It still has 3 bad sides, and if you hit one of the other ones, your opponent will mitigate it first.
Yeah, I wonder if they have like if the continuation community has like kind of that would. I actually published an article. I don't know if anyone read it, but it was about like I asked some questions of the continuation committee, and I think one of the things that's interesting about having sort of the continuation community over having FFG, and the cards are just going to be virtual and you can print them. Excuse me. Is that you legit, instead of just like putting a card in a reserve, you could change it. Like you could like, okay, this card that we had here, it was too powerful. We changed this. We errated it instead of actually putting it on the list. Or oh, these cards have not been played. We're going to change them. Like Sith Warblade, no one played it, so we're gonna give it a plus. We're gonna give it instead of a blank, it no longer has a blank. It has a 2 shield side or something like that.
Yeah. You can just adjust them, but you still want to have like those written somewhere so people really know, so they don't go into a game with the new adjusted card and cry. But all right,
yeah, that's fair.
Let's get into the last one.
I mean, that's. Go
ahead.
That's what I'm saying is Hearthstone sort of does that thing. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, because they're all like online, and like that's the beauty of it. But we'll go into the last one here because we are getting on like 50 minutes already. We talk a lot.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Unending Hate. 1 cost event, blue villain. Spot a Sith or Inquisitor to turn an opponent's die to a side showing a blank. Then deal damage to a character equal to the number of dice in that opponent's pool showing a blank. How do you feel, sir?
Yeah, so I thought that Second Sister worked the way that I originally thought.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking this is actually the best card that we got because it has a pretty insane ceiling. Like, I'm actually surprised that they didn't put like a limit to it, like a 3. Like they only can take 3 damage. Because I thought we learned with like feel your anger, but maybe they're okay with like the randomness of just like, oh, you rolled like 3 blanks. It's like, all right, we'll make that a blank. And you take 4. Like that's just such a feel bad moment, and it doesn't really require any skill. But I do think that this card's actually good in a kind of deck that wants to have a little bit of indirect, like a little bit of direct damage from hand, and you can't play around it. That you just roll in. Like imagine Palpatine rolling in with 4 upgrades and like 2 dice. Like you hit 2 and you'd been doing some damage and had to decide between backdaying or rolling in, so it rolls in and it's just like, oh well, I'm gonna deal you 3 damage now. I blank that one
and kill you.
Deal 3. Yeah, exactly. Like it's just, and that's like we haven't really had that kind of effect in Destiny, without like some like ridiculous action cheating. So just this being kind of like a fair card that could just like randomly spike and like just kill your opponent's character, where like in no other way would have if died. It's pretty insane. And if you just roll one, if they just roll 1 blank, it's like on par with like a like lightsaber throw, which is a card that needed similar condition, but it's better on defense because your opponent wants to get dice in the pool, and then you're just like, okay, you rolled that, I'll deal 2, and now like there might be some other way for me to get another damage or get another 2 damage. If you draw like 2 of these and they don't reroll, you're just like blank that, and I'll blank that. And just like what?
So
or like you play like double down. You're like you play like double down or whatever. I don't know if that card's gonna be legal, but I'm just saying, you get 3 of these, you're just like, all right, chain them together.
Do you remember the feel bad situations from Feel Your Anger?
Oh, of course. It was literally the best named card that's ever existed in Star Wars Destiny. Because you'd be like, God, like there was nothing you could do. You couldn't do anything because you were just like, all right, if he has it and I roll blanks, I just get crushed.
Yeah, I feel like every tournament it'd be like 3 out of 4 rounds I Feel Your Anger to someone for 2 dice. Yeah, and like that was always like, that was mean, man. It was always mean. Like later we got guys that didn't have blanks, so it's like, oh man, if you play against like Leader Yoda that has no blanks, like this is much worse, right? But it's actually above cost for lightsaber throw, because if they hit a single blank, now you're blanking a die, so forcing it off the best side and then smashing for 2. So you do get positive on that. It does have the spot requirement, which is could potentially be tough from a deck standpoint. Like having a Sith and an Inquisitor, like for 2 guys, will make it hard. But like if you only have 1, then it's like, okay, you have spot on that. But it's nice. Like even then, they can note it as a then, so you can't dodge the spot. But I think it has value in an aggressive deck. So that's nice. But yeah, Palpatine rolls out, hits like 3 blanks, and you're like, boom, get out of here.
Yeah. And I was going to say also, like, in a Sith or Inquisitor deck, like, I'm definitely running this card for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And your opponent will know that. And then imagine, like, just like the mind games of, like, oh, you rolled one, like, you rolled in, like, let's just say I rolled on my character, had, like, 1 upgrade, and you rolled 1 blank. It's like, what do you do now? Do you just like rolling your other character and then just like hope that you don't roll a blank and then just get like owned? Or like I think that I like that. I actually like this card. I think it's, yeah, thank you for giving us a card that's like more powerful than anything we've had in that sort of range, and giving us so this is another thing I was thinking about. This is sort of an incentive to play Inquisitor. But the Sith are just better. Like, you have rule of 2, and that was one of the things that I saw about like Second Sister, and I'm just like, oh, we have rule of 2, and we could probably find an apprentice or a Sith that costs the same amount. So why would I play Second Sister? But now with her ability, it's a little different. But I think the Sith have, of what we've seen, obviously, like there's probably gonna be some other Inquisitor, maybe.
Yep.
But Sith are definitely, I think, right now getting the benefit of this card for sure.
Yeah, like you could run little Kylo, who's 15, but you would need like a 15-point Sith to make it worth it, or like Big Maul. Big Maul's from Spark of Hope. So like you could go like Big Maul plus 10 points on either, like, is Dooku 10 points? Or was he 11?
He's 11 for one die.
Okay, then yeah, forget him.
Yeah, a deck people were playing their 15-point Kylo, 15-point Vader for rule of 2.
Oh yeah, 50 point. Yep. And then you hit with the 3 discard and someone cries.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's kind of sweet. And then if you have this card, there's like, I mean, they're probably gonna go for Vader, but
yeah,
they do what you can.
But all right, so yeah, that wraps up our spoiler set. And I don't know, I really don't know how to feel about this stuff. Like, I feel better about Second Sister after realizing that thing. And I'll tell you right now, until we started this podcast, I didn't realize the picking a die that doesn't match the side. I rationalized it after. Thankfully, before I sat there calling it poop.
And then that's the thing, is that it's not. I don't think that's intuitive, though. I don't think that's your fault.
It's tough. It's very tough. Yes.
Yeah.
It may would have made more sense. Leaving it like that gives you the chance of bricking out still, but it is much better.
Yeah, I think making them May. I think it would have been better.
Oh, May would have been way better, because then you're just like, nah.
All right. Yeah, you just be like, oh, it's easy. It's understandable to someone who isn't completely versed in the rules. Like, I think Destiny's becoming sort of like a pretty niche game, and the community's very, very niche. And I could imagine for a new player, like if anyone was like, oh, like I got the starter for, someone found it in like a dumpster and just gave it to me, and like, oh, the game's that good, I'm gonna play, and you just get complete owned, because like, there's like 40 players playing online, and then like they know how to play. They know how, they for a while. So just like understanding something like this is not like, this is not intuitive. Like the wording on this, like you would think you would have to do it.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, oh, I would just put a May. Obviously, making it a May makes it more powerful because of like the niche situations, right?
Yeah.
Like you roll, a double whatever, and then you have to do it to a die, and they have one die, so.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I find that a little annoying. I think that wouldn't have. I don't think that jump in power would have made it that much better. I mean, it would have made it better, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah. But anyways, so Artificery League Season 22 started today. Wait, I lied.
Yeah.
Season 23.
23.
So we'll drop the links for that on the website. Getting in now. Faltering Allegiance is starting on the 15th. So like, if you kind of dirtle a bit, you can play like the first 2 weeks games, and then schedule like the third week once that set's legal and going. So that's probably gonna be the first thing we're really gonna see from that. The EG is having an invitational for the 8 players that I think like won the weekly events. So that's gonna be coming up. It's like the day after they drop Faltering Allegiances. I'm in that, so I'm gonna have to build some deck last minute. All right, Cuenca, current meta. What you got, baby? How do you feel about the current meta, and then I guess the coming meta?
I mean, I got a really good deck that I went 6-1 with, but actually I went 6-0 with. I lost to you playing Rule of 2 Kylo Dooku, and then I ran the table.
Yeah. Lose
first round, then 6-0. I'll say the lineup. I won't talk too much about it because some people who listen to this just like, it's becoming so inbred that like people are like, oh, I like picked my deck because of what I thought you were gonna play, and I was like, haha.
No, this comes out after your decks are locked in.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Well, yeah. So it's Fateful Companions deck with 1 die Anakin, Rebel Trooper, and 5s. With the battlefield being the one I can't name. What?
Hoth Trooper.
Hoth Trooper. Sorry. Yeah.
It's okay.
Sorry. Thank you. It's the. I want to say is it Scarif, the one that like if you have you spot a plot to resolve a die, +1.
Command Tower.
I forget. Command Tower. There you go. Thank you. So it's a Command Tower, which matters actually quite a bit because that battlefield's so good because it's like almost like an extra die. Because you force your opponent into a situation where, like, all right, we'll take yours, we give you 2 extra shields, which matter immensely when you're dealing with Anakin. Or we give you your battlefield, and then you're probably, depending on the matchup, in most matchups, I'm just going to be claiming every turn and getting getting one, the extra damage off the battlefield, and two, the ability to rebel Hoth Trooper your guy. So it's actually I've been very happy with the deck so far. It's actually not even like completely tuned, because there's like I played a bunch of games where I just kept like reloading the old list. I just like, what is this Padme's ship doing in my deck? This card just is too expensive because you have to pay one for everything, and it's like, if you like fives and you roll like 2 damage sides, you're not gonna be like, I need to get a resource. Nah, you're just gonna run that. You're gonna run that damage.
Yeah.
And like with Anakin, you like might want to resolve the 4-for-1. So yeah, things that cost 3 are just like real sketch in the deck. Things that cost 2 are also really sketch. It's hurting real bad for money.
You can definitely do
but
the 2
it's
though.
really good.
5's resource sides are likely to pop up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, I played a lot of games with it, so it's just the way I'm like working the list together. I'm playing against someone who's actually seen me play the deck. I played him in the league, so I'm a little worried because he knows he has a good idea of what I'm going to play. And that's a little worrisome because I don't think the deck is like busted by any means. I do think that like there are certain matchups, but like if anyone wants to play Mill against me, like bring it. I played against Afra, and I was just like you're indirecting me, and I'm just gonna kill your Afra, and it's just gonna be over.
Yep.
And it's just like it's like, oh, like by the way, plus 5 for my Vader. So yeah, I know you don't like Hoth Trooper, but he's been, and sometimes you like fake companions Hoth Trooper to do 2 damage, and it feels so good when you do it. It feels so good because you're doing it because it's gonna end the game or kill the guy.
It's all based on kind of like what's going on, right? Like you could decide to give up 5 health and have a second Anakin die, and the second Anakin die is very powerful from the 4-for-1 perspective. But like 5 health is a lot because you start with like 19. So it's like, all right, which way do you want to go? But if you're always pumping 5s, like there's a good shot where you can afford like Jedi lightsaber or run some of those shieldy things, Anakin's on guard, whatever. But I think it's perfectly fine. I might collaborate with you to see if we can get this deck going, which would be locked in by then. So we'll see how that goes on the adjustment. I don't know. I'm tired of playing droids right now, and I really should just go play it because it's that great of a deck, and it's the last hurrah with all this broken shit. So, maybe, right. I don't know. But I played Mill and Chewbacca blasted around 1-1.
I will say that a lot of my opponents just, like, played very badly into it. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, I just win. And that's the thing, is, like, the deck really like, if you make a mistake, then it can flip, and you're just like, oh my god, like, that just, like, feels so bad.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were just like, oh, I want to make this action and not like a guy. I'm like, all right, well, Hoth, you didn't understand that I was going to do 5 damage out of combat.
Yeah.
And just be like, all right, ping your guy, deal 4, boom.
Yeah. One thing, just so you know, sorry viewers, his internet's starting to crap out a little bit, so he cuts out a smidgen. Nothing I can do for that. It wasn't the encoding. Sorry. I don't know what's happening over there. Tell your wife to stop.
Do you want me to say that again? All right, never mind.
No. It came in, but you've been cutting a little bit. So I figured I'd just, announce it so people aren't thinking it's like freaking out.
Okay.
But yeah, I stand by that. I think, obviously droids and stuff are still good. I haven't been seeing the closing in bounty decks for a bit, but I've been seeing a bit more aggression. I saw Afra come back. So we'll kind of see what's happening, but maybe Palpatine plays again, thinking there might not be closing in. Trandoshans is obviously a scary deck. I expect to see Trandoshans again. So I don't know. I have to decide whether I want to go like Trandoshan or if I want to push, droid and see what's going on. But I'm playing against Moloch, so we'll see how that goes. Coming meta, have you played any trilogy at all?
No, but I know that it's like Palp and droids are good. So
yeah, well, the transformations thing's also very big. I'm pretty sure you can run the same deck you're running right now, but your events are weirder.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Hoth Trooper would be the only one that I'd have to question. But I think he's from Convergence block. He's from Spark of Hope. So yeah. So you could run the same exact list and, maybe I run that in that top 8 and see how it goes. But I think the upgrades are going to be much worse because like I ran crate with stuff in like BB-8s and those are gone, and those feel rough.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what
Yeah,
else.
I'm not running. I'm running crates. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Crates great.
But coming meta, yeah, there's those. The Trandoshans, I think they maintained everything, right? Like loose is around, so it's gonna be like what removal are people running? Because oh no, sorry, loose is gone because across the galaxy, so you don't get the blue one as easily. You can still do like Sentinel Messenger. So maybe that's the play. And we'll see how people do things. But it's gonna be down to like removal being a mess. Droids, rescue droids can still be played, but the available drops are terrible. Like you lose crate, you lose escape craft, you maintain entourage. Your fours get obliterated. So like it's a really large problem. But yeah, that's all I got for now because like I don't have much on the coming meta. But the Asajj Dengar closing in deck was doing really good. But this last Artificery League was Trandoshan Blue and Trandoshan Red in the finals. So yeah, going back to like what I talked about a while back with like the meta, I mentioned that Trandoshan's still going to be around because they gave the point back from the Gandor Hana Chronicle to the FFG one. And yeah, we saw it now. So like now, what do you do? Like, do you go back to 3-wide? Is it going to be Trandoshan meta? Like, how do you feel about this? What do what adjustments can you make to deal with that? But you have to kill Trandoshans kind of fast, or you're going to get obliterated. So, all right, let's go straight into the life tips. We're at an hour and 11. So, what do you got for you? You got the life tip, baby. You want first or second?
You can go ahead.
Okay. So I can't remember if I talked about this last week, and I'm hoping I feel like I may have. Do you remember what my life tip was last week? Was it just the Chipotle stuff?
No, I said the Chipotle stuff.
Yeah, but I added into that. What was my life tip?
You added into that, yeah. I don't know. And you talked about some like lady, which I don't want to talk about it ever again.
Oh, that was the joke. That was not the life tip.
All right, no. What's your life tip?
Just okay, so my life tip is this, and I'm praying I didn't say this already because I've said it a lot.
Well, you're talking about like cooking for your wife or girlfriend, and I was talking about that too. So.
Did I talk about pancakes? Nope. Okay, cool. So muffin mix, it doubles actually as a better pancake batter when you only want a small amount of it. You buy them for like 60 cents to $1, maybe $1.20 depending where you live. In the muffin mix, you can just add like an egg and like 2/3 cup of milk, and good to go. You've got pancake mix for like 4 to 6 pancakes or 4 to 7 depending on the size, and that's been a huge thing for us lately. Like every other day or so, I've been making pancakes. You get the cornbread muffin, you get the peanut butter muffin, blueberry, triple berry, so you get all sorts of flavors without having to like go too deep as far as like when you're messing with pancake stuff. And like that one's been amazing. I've adjusted though to 2 eggs, and I felt like it get better consistency, less likely to get that the dark brown burn. So yeah, 2 eggs, 2/3 cup of milk, and muffin mix or the cookie mix when you get like Betty Crocker or any of those. It's been amazing for breakfasts, especially if you have like kids or anything and you want to mix up the different flavors without having a million different pancake mixes.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right. So that wasn't. So what I'm going to say is not the life pro tip that I had, but I'm just going to piggyback off what Joe said. We're talking about like value cooking things. I made 2 days ago. I made rice, white rice, black bean, what I call Cuban black beans, kind of like a black bean soup, and yuca, what some people call mandioca in Portuguese. I don't actually know what they call it, and if there's a niche, but it's yuca root with a mojo sauce, which is garlic and sour orange. But if you can't get sour oranges, it's kind of like weird. You should use lemon, which is what I do because I don't have sour oranges like at my local shop with garlic. So it's sour orange, garlic, and onions. And you cook the onions first. You put the garlic and the lemon, salt to cook that together, and that gives it nice like a nice little sauce, a lemony, garlicky onion sauce on top of the yuca, which is essentially like a root vegetable with it's a root vegetable kind of like a starch like potatoes.
Yeah.
But the big thing about this meal is that it's dirt cheap. It's like can of beans is $1, black beans, rice is real cheap, yuca real cheap. You could also probably just sub it for like potatoes,
Mm.
and obviously like onions and garlic and lemons real cheap. So that's like a meal. It's also vegetarian. It's vegan. It's delicious. The beans, I would say, the big thing about beans for me, I'm very picky about beans. Being Cuban, one of the things you have to cook them for a while, and when you get them hot and you boil them, you have to have a little extra water in the beans because you're going to cook some off. And then as they're hot, you want to like just kind of like pummel them a little bit with a spoon. That way, that like breaks them up a little bit, and then like the flavors of whatever you cook them in, and the flavors we cook them in is like I use a little adobo, I use garlic, and then I do a bay leaf, and that's pretty much it. It's very tasty, very cheap. I recommend that as my cooking tip of the day. But my life pro tip of the day, which is I think something that a lot of people know, because it's been like a life hack, but I do it all the time, is that if you're somewhere and you don't have like a speaker, if you don't have like a Bluetooth speaker, which I don't, but my wife does, just take your phone and put it in a bowl, and that makes it like much louder than it usually is, because of reasons, physics. I don't know, sound wave physics. If you put the sound part, it like amplifies it. So if you're like cleaning or cooking, makes it a little more enjoyable. Put music whatever you want on, or if you want to like a podcast, like the Hyperloops.com podcast, makes it louder.
Yeah, it's because it's the bowl should essentially be concave, so it like reverbs in out. Think like speakerphone, like when the people are like whatever. But yeah, so that makes sense. I think I do rice and beans all the time, but we still do like a meat, like a chicken or a pork or something. We have some pulled pork that I think I'm gonna do with rice and beans now, and got some ideas cooking around in there.
Yeah, traditionally you use pork in a Cuban dish with like a side of pork, but like, I mean that makes it more expensive. It makes it more time consuming. I take a lot of time cooking my beans anyways, and yuca. If you're working with yuca, you gotta boil that shit for like an hour because it is super dense. You want it real moist, real like flaky, I guess is a word, like real moist. Otherwise it's just you're gonna get like the outside's moist and then the inside's really hard, and I don't like that. I think some people might like that, but that just seems wrong to me.
Yeah, yuca feels next level for a lot of people. The English name is still yuca, and some people call it I think cassava, but
cassava, mandioca.
Mandioca,
I think cassava.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm past that. But let's get to the podcast questions, and then we got not honestly sarcastic jokes. We got NJ Cuenca jokes, and then we're out. All right, so podcast question: what is the future going to be like next week? Give us a time capsule episode. I don't know if that's real life or Destiny. I'm not going into politics, so I'm not. No. Stocks are good though. Stocks are up right now.
Yeah, ups are good. Lakers are going to crush the Heat because everyone in the Heat is just dead. I don't know if anyone follows basketball. I'll make this very quick. The game was very physical at the beginning. There's a player on the Heat called Jimmy Butler. He's very, very tough, big sack kind of guy. And he was just like elbowing people. And then it looked like it was going to be kind of interesting. But then I don't know what it was, but he like turned his ankle in a really uncomfortable way where I like felt it in both my ankles. And then like two of their other players just got injured, and like three players got injured in one game. And it's just like, it's going to be like the most boring finals in like the history of basketball because like they were already the underdogs. And now like you have like LeBron James with like another all-star. It's just so boring. So they're gonna roll in. If you just want to like bet your house on like every game, go ahead.
No, I wouldn't do that shit. F out of here. Get out of here. All right. We went over decks that are supposed to be in a good position going into rotation. We're probably gonna see some CMNE fives. Faithful Companions. Some of the stuff we were seeing going into Trilogy at the beginning. Trandoshans, some droids from floating around. But like rotation hits with faltering, so we're gonna see shit all over the place. Closing in, bounty hunters is still legal. So most of the stuff that's good right now actually isn't going away. Sorry guys, I'm gassy.
So you were talking about they were talking about Destiny. I thought it was just like general.
Oh, the other I have no idea. He didn't give an answer for that one. I just went to the next one.
Okay.
What is the best rebel ship in Squadrons, and why does the A-Wing? Are you playing Rebel Squadrons?
No, I'm not, but I've heard about it. Yeah. I probably should check it out. I'm gonna go with the X-Wing that is different than the other X-Wings. There's probably like a special X-Wing that's better than the other X-Wings. That's the one I'm going with.
I'm gonna go with none of them because I ain't playing that shit. But there is a Star Wars battle game or PvP battles. You can only play it on BlueStacks right now, but it's essentially Clash Royale with Star Wars. So if any of you guys like Clash Royale, you can get it on BlueStacks. It'll come for mobile later, but it's Clash Royale, which is like a little tower defense game. And I thought that was sweet. Tiny Grimes played it. If you want to go check him out, I don't know if I think his YouTube is youtube.com/TinyGrimes. So hopefully, but he doesn't have a hat, and without the hat, he's not the same. He's just not. It's like me without my hood right now. But I just wanted to let my hair breathe because I just came out the shower.
Oh yeah, so also Tiny Grimes had a Destiny video talking about the continuation committee, which I thought was cool.
Yeah,
bringing sort of like that to light a little more people.
Yeah,
he's been doing this a lot longer than we have, so he has a bigger following.
Well, he stopped Destiny a long time ago, so he hasn't really been around. This was kind of like a pop back, but yeah. And he's been playing Legends of Runeterra, so if any of you guys are playing that and you were looking for someone else to like follow and OG Star Wars Destiny, he's there. And the last question is, what's the best deck for Send in the Troopers in rotation? I don't have an answer for that at all. Han's probably there with Send in the Troopers, and then whatever 13-point guy that exists that's red. I have no idea. Sorry, bro. Send in the Troopers. Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
In new meta, Send in the Troopers. Well, yeah, I don't know. I got nothing, man. It's one of those questions that like you're just like,
like, I don't know. If you rabble for a bit, I can go look at what else is in that because we'd have to have like a red 13 if we're running Han.
I'm assuming that Rescue Han is just gonna be better anyways. Like it's just cheaper, and you get Han. So,
I was gonna say you could have K2SO, and then I wasn't in my trilogy section, so that's like, whoops.
Whoops. Yeah, I think he's a little earlier, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's yeah, I can't think of. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, K2SO is legal.
I honestly don't even know what the card does off the top of my head.
Oh, Send in the Troopers. Okay, so Send in the Troopers is the one that flips into one of the trooper guys. It costs 4.
Yeah, I know that, but I don't. Yeah, just tell me what it.
If you control the battlefield and 5 or more dice in your pool are showing damage, force an opponent to name a character, then flip this plot. If they did not name this character, make it elite. But it's a 4-cost plot to bring a guy in, but you have to have 5 dice showing damage. So for 13 reds, it's Fen Rao and K2SO. At 12, you do get Harrison Dooley. Bail Organa, which is kind of trash there. Emilyn Holdo. So yeah, if you need the red, it's not a great time.
So it's range? It has to be range?
No, for the Send in Troopers, no, it's just any damage sides.
Oh, any damage sides. Well, I mean, it's red, so you probably want range, unless like, I guess K2SO is not legal. You said
no. K2SO is legal. It doesn't have to be range because you don't have modified sides there.
Right. It's 5. It
costs 4. So you have 26 to build with. You could do like Luke in a 12. You could go 15 with 5s. But you don't get FC. So like without FC, you're like, do I really want to run 5s?
Well, that's the thing. I was thinking like, oh, 5s would be pretty sick when you like get 4 dice, but I'm like, oh yeah, you're playing a plot, so
yeah, like
not as good.
You want reasonable sets of damage side. There are options though, but like Han makes sense as the 12. That's relatively solid. After that's the question is just where are you going with it? You could go 5s plus transformations Anakin plus send in the troopers, and now people have to like worry about that shit. And like maybe that's good, like send in the troopers instead of FC. FC's like a stronger card overall, but if they're going for those guys and then you like flip into somebody, the problem is that if you pick 5s, you can't have the send in the troopers be 5s. So now they're a 50-50 for who they hit. And copying 5s is terrible there. So like it's not very good.
Right.
But
yeah, I mean, I know they want like they want to see what's good. Well, they want to see what would be the best deck.
Yeah.
And the problem is that you can't play any of the clones already, right?
Yeah.
So from there, it's like, I don't know. You want as many dice as you can, so you probably want a bunch of little like. You might want to think about Kazuto maybe, because he has like 2 range sides and he costs 11.
Kashyyyk costs 11 and has 3 range sides. If you're going with Anakin, but if you're going Han, then it's probably like Fenrau or something.
Yeah.
And you get like little bits of poke damage. But that's all I could think for send in the troopers. All right, let's run the end, my friend. Joke time for you, baby.
Right.
I got no jokes for this one. I've been banished for women in the bathroom.
From Jokeverse.
Joke
All right, I hope I didn't tell this joke before. I actually have 2 jokes. One of them I'm going to riff and see if it makes sense. But the first one, it will be a joke for everyone because it is a sexy joke. So 2 doctors are in a doctor's convention. And they end up meeting up. It's a lady and a man. And they start chatting it up, and they're both single, and they're like, "Yo, let's get a drink after this convention." And we're like, "Cool." And so they're like, "Cool, let's go." Go to the bar, have a couple drinks, feeling each other. Guy's like, "You want to come upstairs and watch some Netflix?" And then she's like, "All right, sure." So they go upstairs. They're watching some Netflix. One thing leads to another, and they have that little sex, right? And so after they have sex, the guy's like, "Oh my god, that was amazing! You're so good with your hands. You must be a surgeon." And she's like, "Yeah, I am actually." "Well, you know what? You must be an anesthesiologist." And he's like, "Yeah, how'd you know?"
You put me to
She's
sleep.
like, "Well, I didn't feel a thing."
But I'll give you that one. I was gonna go with "you put me to sleep." So yeah, I like that one over most of the rest ones. The setup was a little rough, but it's fine.
Right. Yeah. Well,
All right.
All right. So next joke is just for the fans of The Mandalorian. All right. I'll go through it quick. Oh, Joe's just shaking his head now because he's not gonna get it. It's gonna be really good. It's gonna be the funniest joke you ever heard, right? So, all right, 2 ridiculously jacked dudes are on a cruise ship. All right, and they're walking around, got their pecs popping, they got the nips going, blinging, and they're like, "Bro, we gotta work out." And they're like, "Yeah," and then they're looking for the gym. They can't find it, And then the Mandalorian shows up, and then he's looking kind of extra swole. They're like, "Bro, you're the Mandalorian, bro." He's like, "Yo, but you look more jacked than ever." It's like, "Do you know where the gym is?" And then he's like, "Yeah, this is the way."
And that concludes this podcast.
Thanks. That concludes the podcast.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
All right.
Comment, subscribe, Patreon. We're switching to a pseudo tip jar for any of you guys that want to tip stuff, but not looking to do like the long time Patreon thing. So do what you got to do. We appreciate anything and everything. And any last comments, NJ? No?
Stay classy.
Stay classy, baby. Deuces.
Deuces.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to show your support. If you want to become a patron, check out our Patreon. The link will be in the description. Thanks again.